Most people grow up believing life is a test, that the universe withholds, delays, or closes doors on purpose, watching silently to see if you are patient enough, healed enough, strong enough. As if somewhere beyond the sky, there is a checklist with your name on it, and you must suffer just a little more before you're allowed to receive. This belief slips into your nervous system quietly. It teaches you to brace yourself, to expect resistance before beauty, to assume ease must be earned through struggle. But this idea has never been true. The universe does not examine you. It does not grade you. It does not ask you to prove your worth. It mirrors you. Every pause, every opening, every missed connection, every sudden opportunity, every silence that makes you uneasy. None of it is a test. It is feedback. Reality is a neutral surface responding to the signal you are consistently emitting. Not your intentions, not your affirmations, not your effort, your state. The universe is not asking whether you deserve more. It is responding to who you are being. And this is where most people misunderstand their own life. They label intuition as doubt. They read redirection as rejection. They call alignment coincidence. They assume delays are punishment and breakthroughs are luck. They think discomfort means they failed some invisible exam, when in truth they are simply meeting themselves. Your life is not judging you, it is synchronizing with you. But there is a subtle layer few people recognize. You cannot read reality clearly while you are shedding an old identity. When an outdated version of you begins to dissolve, everything is filtered through uncertainty. A door closing feels personal instead of protective. A pause feels like failure instead of recalibration. Support feels suspicious. Ease feels unsafe. Even guidance can feel threatening when it's pulling you forward faster than your old self can follow. That's why so many pivotal moments are misread. Not because the universe is unclear, but because the signal has changed and the receiver hasn't adjusted yet. It's like trying to tune a new frequency with an old instrument. The distortion creates confusion. Confusion creates hesitation. Hesitation weakens the signal. And suddenly you believe you're blocked when you're actually transitioning. This strange phase you're in where your inner world feels different, but your outer world hasn't caught up, is not a mistake. Your energy moved first. Your identity is catching up. Your reality is recalibrating. Some call this space the void. Others call it the in-between. Energetically, it's simple. You change the broadcast before the environment adjusted. When your frequency rises, the universe does not ask if you're ready. It asks something far more precise. Which version of you is most stable right now? Until that version settles, you may feel friction that has nothing to do with failure. That friction is alignment forming. This is why your emotions feel layered lately, why your thoughts feel quicker but less linear, why intuition feels louder yet harder to translate into words. Old triggers lose their grip while the new direction feels blurry. You're not lost, you're overlapping. The old self is still interpreting reality, but no longer creating it. The new self is creating reality, but hasn't fully learned how to interpret it yet. You are standing between identities. And here's the part that changes everything. The universe does not respond to the version of you who hopes the hardest, works the longest, or wants the most. It responds to the version of you who is most coherent. Coherence is the real currency of manifestation. When your emotions, decisions, expectations, and self-image send the same message, reality moves without resistance. That's why momentum belongs not to the most disciplined, but to the least internally divided. When things feel slow or strange, it is not because you're failing a test. It is because your coherence is shifting and your timeline is being retuned. You are not stuck. You are sinking. And sinking accelerates the moment you learn to listen to the quiet language beneath thought. Because instinct is the first signal of alignment. In the next part, we'll explore why trusting that signal and moving before the mind interferes is not impulsive. It's quantum. It's how your future speaks to you before logic catches up. There is a moment that arrives quietly, before thought organizes itself, before logic steps in to negotiate, before your mind has time to ask permission. It feels like a subtle pull, a directional nudge that makes no rational sense yet feels exact. Not loud, not emotional, just precise. That moment is not chaos. It is not anxiety. It is not impatience. It is your future self reaching backward and touching you through the body. Most people miss it because they were taught a false idea, that intuition and logic are opposites, that one must overpower the other. But intuition does not compete with logic. It arrives earlier. Instinct does not come from the thinking mind. It comes from the field of probabilities you are already entangled with. From the version of you that is forming, not the one that is dissolving. You feel the pull first, you understand it later. And when you demand understanding before movement, the signal loses strength. Fear steps in, memory interrupts, conditioning takes the wheel. By the time the mind feels ready, the opening has already shifted. This is why hesitation feels like life moves ahead without you. Not because you were excluded, but because the moment of coherence passed. Nothing was taken away. The signal simply faded. Instinct is not a reaction. It is a match. It is the first point of contact between who you are becoming and the probability that wants to become real through you. Your body recognizes this alignment before your thoughts can translate it. That is why intuitive choices feel immediate, not rushed, accurate. They bypass old filters, survival patterns, outdated self-predictions. Science observes this too. The nervous system processes truth milliseconds before conscious awareness catches up. Your body knows what your mind is not yet equipped to hold. Instinct is not impulsive. It is a precise response to coherence. But here is where distortion enters. The signal arrives clean, and then conditioning touches it. You pause, you analyze, you compare. You look backward for reference. You ask if you are ready. You wonder how it will look. You calculate outcomes. And in doing so, you translate a future-based message through a past-based identity. The clarity blurs, the pull weakens. What was meant to move you forward gets filtered through fear that no longer belongs. This is why decisive people seem to manifest faster. Not because they are reckless, not because they lack fear, but because they move before the old identity interferes. They act while the signal is still whole. They choose before doubt gains momentum. Your future contacts you briefly, cleanly, without explanation, and if you respond in time, you step into that timeline before the past can pull you back. This is where alignment becomes practical. Opportunities do not arrive randomly. They appear when compatibility forms. But compatibility is not permanent. It is a window. The universe does not test readiness. It reveals readiness by presenting instinctual openings. When the signal feels sharp, direct, undeniably clear, that is coherence speaking. And when you wait for reassurance, you drift back toward the identity that delays bargains and predicts limitation. Your future self moves swiftly. Your past self hesitates. Instinct always reveals which one you are listening to. So pause for a moment. Not to think, but to feel. What keeps pulling at you lately without explanation? What choice keeps returning even when you ignore it? What direction keeps resurfacing quietly, persistently? That is not pressure. That is alignment asking for motion. Your instinct is saying the door is open. Your hesitation is showing the old identity is still speaking. If you want to anchor the frequency you are stepping in, to signal it now, not tomorrow, not when it makes sense. In this moment, type in the comments, "I trust my instinct." I move when I feel the call, not to perform, not to convince the universe, not to prove faith or discipline, but as a commitment to the timeline that is asking for me next. Because what arrives after this moment depends on one simple choice. Do you keep waiting for evidence, or do you begin responding to resonance? What most people never realize is that manifestation fails quietly, not because they want the wrong things, but because they want from the wrong place. They picture a new life while emotionally inhabiting the old one. They speak abundance while their body stays braced for loss. They ask for connection while carrying the imprint of abandonment. They call for opportunity while identifying as someone who doubts their own value. And when nothing changes, they assume timing is off or the universe is unresponsive. But the mechanism is precise. Reality does not answer desire. It answers identity. Desire is expressive. Identity is constant. Desire speaks in emotion. Identity speaks in frequency. Desire asks. Identity broadcasts. And the universe always responds to what is being broadcast, not to what is being requested. You cannot experience a reality that contradicts your self-perception. You may consciously want expansion while subconsciously still living as the version of you that learned how to survive without it. And survival identities are powerful. They win by default. Life organizes itself around your deepest assumptions about who you are, even when those assumptions are outdated, even when they were inherited, even when you no longer agree with them consciously. This is why everything changes the moment you change internally. Not when you say the words, not when you visualize the outcome, not when you ask for permission, but when the internal structure that defines your sense of self reorganizes. Physics models this clearly. Systems do not transform through force. They shift when internal coherence changes. When your identity reorders itself, your frequency settles into a new state, and the field responds immediately. This is not mysticism. It is mechanics. This is why some people experience sudden leaps, not because reality rushed, but because identity moved fast enough to allow reality to follow. Here is the part few people are willing to face. The universe responds to who you are, not who you intend to become. You can say you desire abundance, but if your identity still assumes loss, the signal remains unchanged. You can claim readiness for love, but if your self-concept is shaped by protection or guarded attachment, the field responds to that. You can declare a new life, but if your identity continues to emit fear, guilt, or familiar emotional roles, reality matches the signal it receives. You are not manifesting your desires. You are manifesting your self-image. And here is the paradox. Your desires originate from the future version of you, but your identity determines whether those instructions can land. Nothing is being withheld from you. The universe simply does not violate resonance. You would not expect a radio to receive a station it is not tuned to. Yet many people expect reality to deliver experiences they have not tuned their identity to receive. Identity is the tuning. Alignment is the signal. Reality is the response. This is why the inner work you are doing now feels heavier, deeper, more sensitive than before. You are dismantling fragments of identity that distort the signal. Old emotional imprints, old survival strategies, old self-definitions, old attachments to who you had to be in order to stay safe, accepted, or stable. This is not just healing, it is recalibration. You are reorganizing the frequency through which the universe recognizes you, and the evidence is already visible. What once triggered you no longer hooks the same way. People who drained you feel further away. Roles you once inhabited feel uncomfortable. Behaviors that defined you now feel foreign. The emotional weight you carried for years feels thinner, less solid, almost transparent. This is not confusion, it is detachment. When identity loosens, emotional gravity weakens. You stop orbiting old patterns. You stop feeling responsible for narratives that shaped a former version of you. You stop identifying with timelines that no longer fit. And without that gravity, your frequency rises naturally. Intuition sharpens. Boundaries clarify. Vision steadies. Desire aligns instead of pulls. Opportunities change shape. Reality begins rearranging itself around a new signal. And here is something most people don't realize. You do not need to chase high-frequency experiences. When your identity stabilizes, they arrive on their own. You don't have to chase what you want. You only have to stop broadcasting the version of yourself that keeps pushing it away. The moment you stop defining yourself through pain, you stop creating futures organized around it. The moment you stop identifying with lack, you stop living inside experiences that echo scarcity. The moment fear no longer becomes your reference point, reality stops reflecting fear back to you. Identity is the mechanism. Matching is the manifestation. Your life is not measuring your strength. It is responding to your frequency. Everything around you is arranging itself around who you are being right now. So the question is no longer, why is this happening to me? The real question is quieter and far more powerful. Which version of me is the universe matching in this moment? The one I am releasing or the one I am becoming? Because one is dissolving and the other has already begun shaping what comes next. There is a point in every transformation where manifestation stops being about techniques, about methods, about doing it correctly, and becomes something much more intimate. Who you choose to be when no one is watching. Not who you are while journaling. Not who you are in meditation. Not who you are when you feel inspired or aligned. but who you are in the quiet returns to old thoughts, old fears, old assumptions. That is the real quantum moment. Not when you decide to change, but when you stop behaving as the identity that no longer fits and begin responding to life as the self your future already recognizes. From here forward, the universe is not testing you. It is adjusting to you. Your outer world reorganizes itself according to the identity you stabilize within. The way you speak to yourself, the way you interpret emotion, the way you respond to opportunity, the way you move when instinct calls. Each one is a signal. Each one is a vote for the version of you the field should align with. When you act from the old identity, reality answers that signal. When you act from the new one, the field shifts immediately. There is no judgment here, no reward, no punishment, only resonance. What makes this moment in your life powerful is not the size of your decisions, but the frequency behind them. A small choice made from a new identity can carry quantum impact. Changing a job does not change your life. Becoming the version of you who expects respect does. Ending a relationship does not free you. Embodying the self who no longer trades peace for attachment does. Starting a new path does not shift your future. Stepping into the identity that trusts inner vision without asking for external permission does. Every day, the universe asks one silent question: which version of you am I matching today? And through every thought you repeat, every pattern you maintain, every instinct you honor or ignore, you answer. Reality then reorganizes itself around that answer with absolute precision. That is why opportunities appear right after internal shifts. The conversation that arrives after you set a boundary. The timing that aligns the moment you release what drains you. The synchronicity that follows a decision rooted in self-respect. These are not coincidences. They are corrections. The field responding to who you are being, not who you hope to become. That is why you are standing at a threshold now. You can keep interpreting life as a test, believing you must endure more, prove more, struggle longer, or you can see the truth. You are not in a season of being tested. You are in a season of being mirrored. Life is reflecting the identity you are carrying. And the moment you shift internally, the reflection changes with you. The version of you that is fading needed struggle to feel valuable. They waited for certainty before trusting. They paused every time instinct spoke. They expected peace to be followed by loss. But that version no longer fits. You can feel it. Even if you tried, you could not return to the emotional weight that once pulled you into familiar cycles. You have experienced enough calm to know that chaos is not your natural state. You have touched your higher self often enough that pretending to be the old version feels unnatural now. That is how you know you have crossed an inner threshold. There is no going back, not because you are forcing growth, but because your frequency has changed. The new identity is already present. But presence alone is not enough. It must be stabilized, integrated, lived. Not because something is broken, but because you are becoming someone your old patterns were never designed to sustain. The universe is not waiting for you to earn what comes next. It is responding to the identity you are willing to hold consistently. And holding this identity, the one your future is already organized around, requires more than moments of insight. It asks for coherence, for emotional clarity, for daily alignment between thought, feeling, and action. Without grounding, a new frequency can rise and then disperse. With grounding, it becomes your baseline. It becomes who you are even when nothing extraordinary is happening. So if something shifted inside you while listening to this, if your body recognized truth before your mind could name it, that was not coincidence. It was resonance. It was the subtle recognition of a timeline already in motion. And this moment is not asking you to try harder or become someone new overnight. It is asking something simpler and far more decisive. To stop returning to the identity that no longer belongs to you. To stop interpreting life through the lens of who you had to be. To respond to the present as the version of you your future already knows. You are not in a season of being tested. You are in a season of stabilization. What you hold now, what you repeat, what you identify with in quiet moments is what reality will continue to mirror. And the more consistently you live from this new signal, the less effort life requires to meet you. Trust what has already shifted. Trust the clarity that arrives without force. Trust the instinct that no longer argues with fear. That is not imagination. That is alignment becoming real.